Good evening and welcome everyone to the council meeting. To open the meeting, I would like to now allow time for personal reflection before we start the business of the meeting. As part of the reflection, I request attendees to observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect in memory of Councillor Joyce, who sadly passed away on 12th of April 2024. Our thoughts are with his families and friends. Please now join me in a minute's silence in memory of Councillor Joyce. Please be seated. The purpose of this meeting is to deal with a major issue for the well-being of Torbay and best interests of the community. My role as Civic Mayor is to ensure that today's agenda is dealt with efficiently and to allow fairness throughout the discussions. As you are aware, the meeting is governed by strict procedures and standing orders. To make sure that the meeting is run fairly, I expect healthy discussion and respectful speeches by councillors, and I will not allow repetition. I will also not allow any disrespectful personal comments against other councillors, barracking, talking across the chamber, or talking loudly amongst yourselves. If I see any of these behaviours, I will stop the debate and call the meeting to order. I will not hesitate to use standing orders to remove councillors from the meeting. If members wish to make a point of order or personal explanation, I will consider on case-by-case basis when I take these. Although standing orders allow individuals to be seated during their speeches, I will prefer, if whenever possible, councillors to stand when addressing the council so that you can clearly be seen and heard. When speaking, please ensure your microphone is turned on. If members wish to leave the meeting before it is finished, please follow Standing Order A25.7 and give your apologies before you leave via the Chief Executive. Please note we are live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. The proceedings of the Council meeting will also be recorded. Please can attendees refrain from watching the live stream as this will cause interference for our viewers. We are not expecting any fire alarm testing today. In the event of evacuation, you will hear a recorded message requesting you to evacuate the building. Please leave by the nearest exit. The Riviera Centre staff will assist you. Once outside, please assemble in front of the tennis courts to the seaward side of the building. Please also ensure that all mobile phones and iPads are turned to silent. Are there any apologies for absence?
Mr Mayor, we've got a number. So Councillor George Darling, Councillor Mandy Darling, Councillor Douglas Dunbar, Councillor Twelves, Councillor Law, Councillor Bryant, Councillor Brooke and Councillor Fox. We haven't received apologies in advance from Councillor Madison, but she's not here as yet, Mr Mayor, so we'll record her apologies if she doesn't attend this evening.
Thank you. Any group leaders, any further apologies? I propose the minutes of the extraordinary meeting for the Council held on the 20th of March 2024 to be signed as a correct record. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that one.
I will now take the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Have any members any non-pecuniary or disclosable pecuniary interests in any of the matters on today's agenda? Have any officers any personal interests or any matters of on today's agenda? I move to item 5, proposed Devon and Torbay combined authority, county authority and devolution deal. Please refer to page 5 and revised table of powers functions published on 29th of April 2024. Can Councillor David Thomas please put this motion to the Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Devolution for Torbay and Devon. Firstly, I just want to thank Councillor Steve Darling and Councillor Darren Cowell for starting those original conversations with Devon and Plymouth. This has clearly been a long process, and although some may see this as the end of the process, in all honesty, it is simply the beginning of a new relationship between Torbay, Devon and our national government. And so what is devolution? Well, typically it refers to the decentralisation of powers and decision making from national government to a more local level. Across Torbay and Devon, devolution will see the establishment of a combined county authority. It is important to emphasise that this is not a merger of two councils. This is not a local government reorganisation. This is effectively a deal between two primary councils whereby government will devolve down new powers and the money for those powers to the combined county authority. And it is this CCA that will have the power to make those decisions at a local level, thus removing part of the bid process that has been around for various pots of money, just particularly around those new powers. Our combined aims in this first round seek to provide the people who live and work in Devon and Torbay to be better connected, more competitive and more prosperous. We want to create more learning opportunities, construct new homes, foster local business growth and improve our public transportation system and roads. So just for a few moments, I just want to focus on the 6 key priorities. So number 1, maximising our economic potential. So we will make sure that we have the skilled workforce our local economy needs for the future. We'll work to secure new investment to help create additional high-value jobs. We're looking for this deal to address some of our housing pressures. Working in partnership, we will deliver investment in affordable housing schemes for local people, thus reducing homelessness. An opportunity for greater community land trust-led delivery, particularly across rural and coastal areas. Looking to improve that local transport, we will strengthen our joined-up approach as equal partners, helping to improve the efficiency and coordination of public transport. Shared responsibility for strategic transport will support economic growth. Our 4th ambition, looking to meet our net zero ambitions, helping to unlock Devon and Torbay's huge green economic potential with more investment in green business growth and attracting inward investment to the area. Our transition to a net zero economy will be accelerated, capitalising on our area's world-leading expertise in green science and technology. It'll allow us to deliver more investment within Devon and Torbay, and we will also support high-growth business sectors such as marine engineering, defence, photonics and digital, as well as our traditional strengths of tourism, agri-tech and food production, through creating a strong and sustainable local economy. We can increase productivity and pay across Devon and Torbay. Now, I've gone through a consultation process. The results of those are within the papers that you have. We've had a very strong website at devontorbaydeal.org.uk for anybody who's currently watching and would like some more information. There is really so much to talk about, and I'm only able to skim the top of this subject in the 5 minutes that I have. However, this is a journey that we have all been on. We've had briefings along the way. We've been involved with the consultation. Hopefully, many of us will have read some of the paperwork for this evening. You will have seen the comments from some of our partners and local district councils within that paperwork and within those consultations. But I do need to sum up. This devolution deal allows these new decisions to be taken locally by people who know their areas best. And as we move forward...
Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
That's
your time up, I'm afraid.
Oh, my apologies.
Sorry. Do you have a seconder?
Mr. Mayor, delighted to second this, and I will actually speak now. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a prime example of working well together, working with Devon and going forward. I think it is a shame that Plymouth couldn't join us, and I hope that in the future they will join Devon and Torbay. I'd also like to thank Dave Thomas, Anne-Marie and the officers who have worked tirelessly to make this happen, and to Steve Darling, Councillor Steve Darling, Councillor Darren Cowell, who I know worked before to make this happen. And a special mention to, I think a friend of all of ours, is Councillor John Hart, who has taken this through, not as a lead, but it's been a partnership. But he has just announced that he will be standing down as leader of Devon. And I first met him when I was elected in 2007. And he's always been very good to us in Torbay, and very wise words whenever I've met him. So I'd like to thank him on behalf of Torbay for the work that he's put into this project. On the consultation, Councillor Thomas, I think you could have highlighted how our response, if you look at the numbers, has been greater than any other of the areas, the districts in Devon. So it showed that the people of Torbay actually wanted to consult and give their views on it. And we've always worked well with Devon. It's been a bit like a marriage where people think, shall I get married? Shall I not get married? Shall I set the date? And they've gone through all the work, we've got through it, and the marriage is happening. We are going to be in that partnership, the CCA with Devon. And that's good. It's good for a number of reasons. You highlighted some of them. I think help with housing, and across the chamber, we know that we have got a shortage of housing if we can work together with Devon to deliver. Transport, vital that we work together and that we work on routes and how we can all work together. And skills. We need the skills, we need the good jobs going forward for Torbay to help the economy. Also, the LEP. Instead of the LEP being Somerset, Devon, Plymouth, Torbay, it's now more localised so that we will have a say in the decisions of where that money is spent. I was on the Regional Development Agency all those years ago. One of the criticisms of that was it was too big. And I think by bringing the LEP into the CCA, will actually see better results for Torbay because we can make local decisions. I think this is a great deal for both our residents, businesses, and us as local authorities, both Devon and Torbay. And I would hope that you will all support this. And as Councillor Thomas said, I think this is just the start. I think once we get going, there will be more things that can come in to the CCA, which will benefit both Devon, Torbay, and I hope in the future Plymouth. I think it's for the greater good of our residents, and I'm very happy to second this proposal going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I now invite debate. Councillor Steve Darling.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it's important that whoever is in government, that local authorities do need to positively engage with whatever the ways that they're proposing that you can move forward with your community. And clearly, whether it is combined authorities or mayoral deals, then that is the way that the current government has sought to progress that agenda. I would say that my understanding is that the government have made combined authorities, which is what we've gone for in Devon, a bit of a struggle and a lot of work for quite a limited amount of benefits that you end up at the end of it. And they've done that on purpose because they really want to have a selection of mayors across the United Kingdom. So I do have a fear that, particularly past the general election, this could be a Trojan horse for a mayor, but we will just have to cross that bridge when we come to it, because this is one of the few shows in town that we have for us to engage with and to look at driving that devolution. It is, to me, about looking at what is... It isn't looking at what's on the table at the moment. At the moment, we've got the starter, and it's quite thin pickings for what the amount of effort that we've had to put in to drive this forward. But one would hope that the main course over the horizon will be a much better meal than we have before us at the moment. We do need to see that there is, when you read The Economist and magazines like that, there is a missing layer of government in that regional government that we don't have so much in the United Kingdom, where there is that strategic thinking around employment and transport and so forth. And so one would say that this is welcome to drive that, but is it worth the effort? I think not, but it's what there is for the next course that we should have our eyes on. And I know that colleagues will have read articles from a potential incoming Labour Party, and they do talk about taking back control, not in a Brexity sense, but actually giving greater confidence to local government and greater powers. And this combined authority is a potential way of implementing those greater powers that, whether it is a minority Labour government or a full Labour government after the general election, may well be handing down stronger powers than a clinging on Conservative government, if depending which way, whatever happens at the general election. So it is with some caution that I will be encouraging colleagues to back this deal. It isn't the land of milk and honey that one would have hoped for, but it is a step in the right direction, and one needs to grasp that opportunity and drive it forward in the hope that that main course is more substantial to support Torbay, because we do have significant challenges in the area that need addressing and need that long-term funding rather than dribs and drabs of funding that we sometimes get from central government. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any further debate? Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To echo some of what Councillor Darling has just said, I think there are concerns around the devolution deal going forward. In particular, we are aware that some neighbouring local authorities are deeply unhappy with this deal, and we need to look at how we can make our working relationship with those authorities who are our neighbours productive going forwards, as we are part of a patchwork of a wider Devon. We don't want, by taking these steps forward, should we go down that route, to paint a target on our back. And I think that's potentially something that we need to be cautious of. In addition to that, community members within my ward have raised a concern that potentially the limited membership of the Devon and Torbay combined council authority, being limited in number, could potentially be used as a vehicle for self-promotion by some individuals. Are you able to give any assurances at this stage, in the interest of this new way of working together, that the DTCCA will include cross-party representation to best represent Torbay's interests? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tyman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Cabinet member responsible for housing, I thought I ought to make a few comments about where this devolution arrangement might go in terms of how helping us meet our needs. The needs have already been expressed from both sides of the chamber, and I think if you look at the amount of money that's available within this deal for housing, and then spread that across all the districts and Torbay, it's a very small amount, and actually in its own right it won't achieve a lot. That doesn't mean to say it won't achieve anything, but it won't achieve a lot. We need something far greater. I see, however, that the opportunities here, by working together across Devon, are going to be able to have different conversations and wider conversations with central government, with Homes England, and a lot of that work has already started in terms of having a Devon-wide task force and the Devon Housing Commission, which has been working over the last couple of years and is due to report later this year. In fact, the Devon Housing Commission, that's done a lot of its investigation on rural areas, is actually visiting Torbay in May, having a meeting here, and will be bringing into its report our needs alongside those it's already identified from across other parts of Devon. So I see that all those elements coming together will allow us to have different conversations. Coming through the consultation, I think a lot of the views were, what is this going to do for us? And I think in a housing sense, at the moment, we have to say we don't know what it's going to do. What we are seeing is the opportunities to allow us collectively across Devon to do more for ourselves. And I think that's very important, coming back to what Councillor Harvey has talked about in discontent amongst certain districts, that I think we need to get a better relationship with them going forward. I think the level of distrust coming not from the district councillors but from some of the population has got a background of some misinformation about what devolution is all about, and I think we need to address those going forward so everyone has a far better understanding of what the opportunities are. As Councillor Thomas and Councillor Lewis mentioned, this is the start of a journey in a sense. It's the end of a phase one of the journey, but I think it's the start of the next phase, and I think we have a lot of work to do over the next 6 months before this comes into operation, and over the next years to make a success out of this. So I think that we need to be very aware of the consultation, which was quite a mixed response. It tells us there's a lot of work to be done. How much are we going to get out of this? None of us know, but in a sense, I think this is one of these situations, the more we put into it, the more we will get out of it. The more effort we make, the more benefit we will gain for the residents of Torbay. So I'm going to support this, and I hope that it will have general support not only today, but in the months going forward as we develop the plans that we need to develop to get the maximum we can from this deal.
Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And as Councillor Thomas and Councillor Lewis kindly mentioned, the discussions did start under the previous term. As the previous portfolio holder for housing and regeneration, I was involved in some of those early discussions as well. And I was positively surprised in those discussions about two areas of common ground across Devon in those early discussions. Firstly, and this did surprise me, there was a united view on the need for increasing the amount of affordable housing across Devon as a whole. If this deal can lead to some more affordable homes in the longer term, listening to what Councillor Timon had to say, then in my view it's worth proceeding just on that basis alone because of our desperate need to get more affordable homes in the Bay. Secondly, I was equally surprised in the meetings I was in with other Devon councils was the level of opposition to having a directly elected mayor. And if I was being mischievous, Mr. Mayor, which as you know I'm not, I might suggest that that might be the opposition of mayors to mayors across Devon might be a legacy of Councillor Bye, if I was being cruel. I understand in Cabinet this week that he was suggesting that he might woo the districts. I might suggest that ought to be done by somebody else, perchance. Anyway, I'll stop being naughty. But as has been alluded to, this proposal before us isn't the most exciting ever. But to use Councillor Darling's analogy, if this meagre gruel can lead to a more substantial meal later, then I think we should go for it, because I think not taking part doesn't lead to anything. Thank you.
Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think we need to make sure that whatever happens as part of the process is moving forward, that Torbay has a really strong, powerful voice within the combined authority. It would be too easy for people to think that Devon, being the larger partner, or geographically and from a population perspective, would dominate Torbay. But the way in which the governance is structured, we are equal partners. But I think it's also very clear that we need to make sure that our business community in Torbay really come together and unite as a single powerful voice to make sure that Torbay's business interests are heard across Devon and heavily influence any opportunities for economic investment and growth in Torbay that we all know is desperately needed. I think everybody in this room knows my passion for housing, and I'm really pleased, and I take on board the comments of Councillor Timon and welcome those comments, that the opportunity, whilst relatively meagre at the moment, could actually be the game changer that is needed, not just in Torbay but across Devon, to deal with the housing crisis that we have here and elsewhere in the county. And another element of the deal, of course, is transport. And, of course, it's not a real issue for Torbay because we've already got a really strong strategic relationship with Devon, working in partnership with them on transport issues, joint funding applications, etc., over a number of years. So that will just strengthen that relationship. And of course, whilst some colleagues have referred to this sort of meagre element of the county authority as it's instituted to begin with, the opportunities are there for the future, and we can look across the country at other combined authorities to see what could actually be on the table in the future. Some really serious investment in Torbay and Devon that is determined at the lowest levels, taking back control, as Councillor Darling alluded to our communities where we know best what our needs are, and not the mandarins in Whitehall. I'd like to recognise the appreciation from the leader and deputy leader of the council for the role that the previous partnership took. It wasn't just Councillor Darling and myself, as Councillor Long has already alluded to. Several cabinet members had a key role in those early conversations, and there was nervousness, but the key obstacle was to make sure that we had a united voice and not have an elected mayor forced upon us. We've had that experience in Torbay. I won't go as far as Councillor Long because I think that's unfair, but it didn't work here, and I don't think it would have been the right thing for Devon either. Picking up on the point that Councillor Lewis made about Plymouth, I too find it regrettable that at this stage they were unable to join the combined authority, but I think we are all agreed, not just in this chamber but across the county, that we would like to continue a very strong, close working relationship with Plymouth, and the door will always remain open. So the opportunity is there. There is a lot of hard work ahead. I would like to ensure that Torbay's political voice is heard across the chamber at that CCA, because I think that's important to ensure that there is a stable voice within the heart of that combined authority. So I welcome it with some caution. I recognise the nervousness amongst the community and elsewhere, but it's up to us to prove those people that it's the right thing to do for Torbay and our local communities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. If there's no further debate, I will go back to Councillor David Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies for overrunning at the beginning. I didn't actually hear that I got 30 seconds, so I'll try and be a little bit more observant this time. Just trying to pick up on some of the comments. Certainly, Councillor Darling, limited amount of powers. I think that is absolutely, the case of where we are, but it is, a case of being part and parcel of stage one to be able to see what comes forward in stage two and beyond. If we wind this back to the very beginning, there were 3 levels. Level 3 had the opportunity for an elected mayor. I wasn't involved in those very early conversations, but certainly what has been fed back to me is it is a view that was across the whole of Devon, that it wasn't felt as though that would work for Devon. And of course, the higher up the levels you went, the more devolved powers were available at step 1. I think what we have got is we've got level, we call it level 2 plus. So it's level 2 plus a few extra bits and pieces, because at the end of the day, it is a devolution deal. It is about that negotiating. And so I think we can absolutely agree that whatever deal we have today, we're all convinced that it'll be something different moving on. I think also when we get to see the Labour manifesto and the Conservative manifesto and their words on devolution and devolved powers, early indications are that there's going to be very little between the two major parties. So I think that this is absolutely the direction of travel. Councillor Harvey, some concerns. I've read in the report, obviously the neighbouring authorities. There is you spoke about limited membership. The actual membership is actually set The rules of the way that is basically set by the government, with Torbay and Devon having equal partners, 3 members from each council, and that conversation over who sits at that table is a conversation that I very much want to have if the council agree this evening to actually move across the line. Councillor Tyman, I think it does provide us with that opportunity for different conversations and different opportunities. And some of the people that we're going to be talking to are going to be people that we've already spoken to, but the approach, I think, will be very, very different in the new deal. And probably just to pick up on Councillor Cowell, strong, powerful voice in the combined authority. As you've already said, this is it's an equal partnership between Devon and Torbay. It's not based on the size of us as an authority. It is actually an equal partnership sitting at that top table. And finally, Plymouth. Great shame that Plymouth aren't actually involved in the final deal, but that door is open, and you know, who knows. So just before we go to the vote, I really am convinced that the devolution deal that is before us today has that opportunity to grow and to develop into something much wider, with more powers, more money being devolved down to us. However, we must prove to government that we can deliver on the powers that would effectively come down in the first tranche. And I genuinely believe that this is the start of a new way of working with national government. And I seek your support for a unanimous
30
decision
seconds.
as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now move to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous motion carried. Thank you, members, for your attendance this evening. I now close the meeting.